So I'd heard his name before, but like until I had a friend tell me who it probably was, I had like no idea what he even looked like. I didn't know the guy. So
Wow. You just had a really great video on Jubilee, big appearance, talking to Jordan Peterson and all of that. And I was definitely very impressed by that whole conversation. So, can you maybe walk me through a little bit of what that was like getting on Jubilee and preparing for this conversation? Did you even know you were going to speak with Jordan Peterson? What was that whole process like for you?
yeah, so in regards to like how I ended up going on, so I'd always been like a fan of Jubilee. Never really thought I would like, be someone to participate. But what happened was Charlie Kirk ended up coming to my campus, and at first I was like kind of debating whether I wanted to go up and talk to him, speak to him, but I was like, you know what, this might be an opportunity you don't get again. So I went up and I talked to Charlie Kirk. I kind of asked him a question that he usually like dodges, it seems to be. On the internet, and I recorded that, had my friend record it and post that to my social media. And after that happened, Jubilee ended up contacting me, and they were like, "We'd love to have you on this episode." And from there, I was like, "Of course, it's kind of like something I would always have loved to do." And that's kind of how I ended up getting selected. And then in regards to just like being on the show in general, we weren't told who was going to be on. Like we never, none of us knew that.
Oh,
They didn't explicitly tell us, but we kind of got some information to prepare. Like, here are some of the prompts, or like here are some things I might say. So from that,
okay.
people kind of started to piece things together. Okay, so what Christian would say something like this? And it was pretty
Yeah.
easy to kind of figure out that it was Jordan. So yeah.
Yeah, that's so fascinating. So you basically just had the prompts. It sounds like you were pretty familiar with Jordan Peterson and his stance on religion. Was that just something you already kind of knew, or was that something based on the prompts you were like, I might be talking to Jordan Peterson, I'm going to look into this? What was all that like?
Actually really interesting. So I'd heard his name before, but like until I had a friend tell me who it probably was, I had like no idea what he even looked like. I didn't know the guy. So
Wow.
yeah, it was like 4 days before I was like, oh crap, okay, so I need to like study now. Really philosophical guy. I was like, okay, let me like get into his
Yeah.
brain. So kind of like my approach with these videos is like, if I can figure out who this person is, how can I just completely understand their framework? And obviously I have some type of disagreement. So how can I, kind of like extract that and then bring that up
Hmm.
in a way that they must answer? And here, I think in the video, we kind of saw that the contention or like the issue I had with his framework, he was unable to like reconcile with us. And I think, and personally, I don't know if he kind of found it this way, but I think a lot of people will see that the problem I had with his framework was pretty fundamental to it, and I think it's something
Hmm.
that he probably will need to reconcile in regards to just like the validity of it in general. So that was kind of the approach I took. I didn't know the guy. I had to just like study.
Well, I was impressed. You could have fooled me as a longtime fan or something. So it was definitely impressive. I think a lot of his kind of philosophy when it comes to religion comes from Dostoevsky and Nietzsche, and Dostoevsky specifically, who went through pretty much hell here on Earth, prisons and prison camps, and he came out of it a totally different man, totally changed man. And so I can see how his kind of vision of Christianity, which is very centered on it's good for society. We need these good values for society. And if we don't have religion, then our society will go into nihilism and pretty much be annihilated. That's a lot in his writings. And so I think that is reflected in Jordan Peterson's I guess, philosophy. So when speaking about his philosophy, though, can you maybe talk? You said some of the things he couldn't quite substantiate fully. Can you specify what exactly do you mean by that?
Yeah. So in regards to that, I think it's just interesting. He makes these claims about how to interpret the Bible. Like in the video we saw, like he defines worship as prioritizing something. So it's not just like kind of
Mm-hmm.
getting on your hands and knees and like, truly devoting yourself, but it's like you prioritizing one thing over the other. He says something like, everyone has a god. So like having a god means like whatever you value the most, and you're like the bottom of like your value hierarchy, that is God, and certain things like that. And then he'll also say things like the stories in the Bible are meant to be interpreted as meta truths, and I think you can kind of substitute the word meta truth as like a metaphor, aka like a transcendent story that has existed or been like referenced all throughout time. So something like the story of Cain and Abel would just be a story that is meant to be not taken like, or we don't know if it should be taken literally, right? So it's just like a story. What we do know is that story about two brothers fighting and like the consequences of like sibling fighting and whatever, and this happens all throughout time. So he makes these interpretations about the Bible and the events and stories in the Bible, and this interpretation, he doesn't allow us to understand, right? He can't figure out whether or not these stories, I have to use the words when I'm speaking to him, like existed in ontological reality. What that really means to like the average viewer is like, did these things actually happen? Like, were these people real people, right? You can't even tell us if like the resurrection happened. And when most people read the Bible, the first impression they get is, okay, well, to be a Christian, I must believe that Jesus died on the cross for my sins. I think so many Christians have referenced that. 1 Corinthians 15:17. There's so many places where you have to, where it says that you ought to believe Jesus is your savior, right? And in his interpretation, it's cool to like, it's fine to interpret the Bible in a certain way, but he can't give us any reasons to believe that this interpretation, that these are all just stories that are meta truths, are, if that's like the true interpretation. He cannot make a claim on how we should know that his interpretation is the correct one. And like I said in the video, if you don't know this, like whether we should believe that these things really happened or didn't, that could be the difference between someone believing the wrong thing and then going to hell or heaven, completely thinking they're Christian when they're not. And I think that's like a super important thing to look at.
This is a piece of a larger conversation that I had. You can watch the full episode by clicking here, or listen to it on Spotify, Apple Music, and wherever you listen to podcasts by searching for Truth and Tradition. I'll see you guys there.